Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Isis, Escape from Transylvania. The goddess next door and John Haynes must escape a horde of vampires on the hunt in this horror-filled Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Escape from Transylvania in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. The CW's Supergirl will be going full SJW in Season 4. And how will the CW Supergirl be going full SJW in Season 4? Well, in Season 4, we have Greg Berlanti getting ready to add a transgender character as part of the cast. And with the addition of the transgender character as part of the cast, in addition to the feminist narrative that's on Supergirl right now, and the lesbian storylines that are on Supergirl, it's official that Supergirl is now a full SJW show. And when it comes down to this new transgender character, I'm really afraid regarding this character. Because when I listen to the character's name is supposed to be Nia Now, and she's supposed to be a 20-something transgender character who's supposed to be like a young Cat Grant. And the descriptions of her describe her as being soulful. So that, I'm assuming, is possibly a black character. And I'm fearing that she's going to have some sort of interaction with James Olsen. And the reason why I'm afraid of this character having an interaction with James Olsen is because I know Greg Berlanti's history and I know Greg Berlanti's issues regarding black men. And when it comes down to black heterosexual men, your Greg Berlanti has serious issues with those black men, and he always tries to find new, creative, and exciting ways to emasculate a heterosexual black man like James Olsen. And putting a black transgender character around James Olsen would pretty much fit within Greg Berlanti's past behaviors regarding black men on his television shows, and further push the agenda where he wants to associate black men with homosexuals or portraying homosexual characters. Now, when it comes down to this transgender character, this is the straw that broke the camel's back for me as related to the CW Supergirl. Now, I've been watching Supergirl on the regular ever since it was on CBS, and I loved this show back when it was on CBS because back when Supergirl was on CBS, it was just a fun family show that was literally like watching a DC comic book come to life. It was a great show that people of all ages could watch, and people who loved the Superman characters and the Superman family could sit, watch, and enjoy without having to fear any sort of identity politics or any sort of social justice narrative being put in their faces. And I remember the highest rated episode of Supergirl, the one that featured the CW's Flash guest starring, and that episode, again, it was literally like a DC comic book come to life. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Greg Berlanti wants to build a show that is going to get big ratings. All he wants to do is push a social justice narrative. And the Supergirl show has been headed towards this direction for the last 2 years, because over the last 2 years we have gone from the Tyler Hoechlin guest starring as Superman in the season 2 premiere to around season 2.5 we get this whole Kara's sister talking about how she's a lesbian and pursuing her lesbian relationship, and then we get Kara going into these whole feminist rants and these feminist narratives and these feminist themes in season 2. And one of the things that really annoyed me about season 2 was the complete emasculation of James Olsen, because James Olsen started out as the black male love interest of Kara and would have been a progressive step towards diversity. However, many racists didn't want to see that, so James Olsen was downplayed into the role of the guardian of the friend zone. Yes, James Olsen got to become the guardian in National City. However, that was a consolation prize for not being able to have a relationship with Kara that was built up over season 1, and that's why I call him the guardian of the friend zone. But the emasculation of men on this show continued throughout season 2, because in season 2 that's where we saw one of the most emasculating moments I ever saw in comic book history. Now, in the season finale, we have a supposedly mind controlled Clark Kent or Superman fighting with Supergirl, and Supergirl beats Superman, and then Superman says that Supergirl is his equal, clearly showing me the feminist narrative as related to this show and a complete emasculation of the Man of Steel. And when I look at that whole season finale, that was one of the major cringe moments for me watching the Supergirl show. Seeing that whole episode where Supergirl is going to beat Superman was one of the most cringiest moments I ever saw in a superhero show. Because I understand, yes, superheroes have super strength. However, I understand biology is the same no matter whether it be a Kryptonian or a human. And with Superman having 8 times the upper body strength of Supergirl, there was no way that Supergirl could have ever possibly beaten Superman. But these feminists, because they believe men and women are equal, decided to promote that argument on that Supergirl finale. And that's one of the things that was one of the ultimate cringe moments for me. But over the course of season 3, I tried to hang in there, even though I had to deal with episodes like the full SJW event known as Crisis on Earth X, which featured Nazis and was just absolutely disgusting to me. And I tried to hang in there with these Berlanti shows. But when I look at this one moment here, where we have this transgender character being introduced to Supergirl, that's when it's time for me to change the channel. And I am not changing the channel because I am a so-called transphobe or a homophobe. I am changing the channel because as a person who likes comic books and superheroes, I believe that comic books and superheroes are family entertainment. And as family entertainment, I believe that there is no place for this identity politics narrative that Greg Berlanti is trying to push in many of his shows, like Supergirl and like Black Lightning, which I'm not going to watch next season, because as it relates to Black Lightning, seeing those lesbians on Black Lightning, that's not something I wanted to see on on a superhero show. Again, when it comes down to superhero shows, I really want them to stop bringing the social justice into these shows, because these are family shows, and as family shows, they're supposed to be programs that people of all ages can watch, and people can let their children watch without having to see somebody trying to promote some sort of identity politics narrative at them. And when it comes down to Greg Berlanti's identity politics narrative, I have a serious issue with his identity politics narrative, because his identity politics narrative always seems to be tainted with racism. When I look at his shows and the history of his shows and how he emasculates black men, like James Olsen on Supergirl, like Mr. Terrific on Arrow by making him a gay, bumbling, stumbling idiot, and like the way he has asexualized Firestorm and Kid Flash on Legends of Tomorrow, I look at his track record as related to his attempts to bring diversity through these social justice agendas, and they clearly show me how racist this man is and how racist he is with his shows. Because when I look at his track record as related to those superhero shows and the way he depicted Chuck Clayton on Riverdale as a black brute, it doesn't really make me want to see anything on his shows related to diversity, because his attempts to bring diversity and social justice to these shows often it makes these shows get filled with racism. And when it comes down to this Nia Now character, I have a great fear that he's going to try to use this Nia Now character as a way to further emasculate James Olsen, because when I hear the term soulful, that's oftentimes a term that they use, SJWs use, as related to black women. And for this to be a transgender man who is now a woman and is supposed to be a young Cat Grant, again, I have a fear they're going to put this transgender character with James Olsen and possibly try to impose some sort of romance with James Olsen to further degrade the black male image and further degrade the heterosexual black male image on this show. And that's something I don't want to see presented on media. And that's one of the reasons why I believe, again, we need to have black-owned black media, owned and controlled by black men, because on black-owned media, owned and controlled by black men, we will not see people trying to push racist social justice agendas which are designed to emasculate black men, degrade heterosexual black men, and degrade heterosexual black masculinity. Because that's what I see being presented with this Supergirl, and this is one of the reasons why I will not be watching Supergirl next season, and I probably won't be watching many of the CW superhero shows, because I'm really tired of Greg Berlanti promoting his identity politics on these superhero shows, and I'm tired of him using racism as a way to promote his identity politics in a passive-aggressive way, in passive in that he gives you diversity, but in aggressive in that he finds some way to emasculate and degrade black men while he promotes his diversity agenda. And I look at his track record and I think about this Supergirl with this transgender character, and this is something that absolutely disgusts me, because I'm really getting tired of, again, these SJWs using black people as a way to springboard their political agendas, and then using us as a human shield to defend themselves from the racism that they promote to people all over the world regarding the black male image and the black heterosexual male image that they're degrading. If you want to see some positive presentations of black men who are heterosexual, pick up my fantasy novel, The Temptation of John Haynes, or ISIS series books like ISIS Bride of Dracula, ISIS Night of the Vampires, and ISIS Escape from Transylvania. And if you want to help me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.